Full house tonight. Look at that. Good evening and welcome to the November 1st, 2021 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Stephen Spur and I am Chairman of the Summit Zoning Board. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast to Summit's government channel, which is Comcast Channel 34 and Verizon Channel 30. In close consultation with the City Clerk's office, as well as careful consideration of relevant CDC and NJDOH guidance, the following precautions have been adopted to protect board members, professionals, including city staff, applicants, and members of the interested public, and others in consideration of ongoing public health concerns. First, all meeting attendees are required to wear face masks regardless of vaccination status, unless speaking as part of the formal proceedings. Social distancing is encouraged wherever practical. Face masks and hand sanitizer are available for attendees to use at the meeting room entrance. Regular and rigorous cleaning of the facilities has been conducted by city staff. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Andy Ball is the zoning board's attorney. He will advise board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Ball does not vote on the applications. Chris Nicola is a city employee and the zoning board secretary. Mr. Nicola works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. Mr. Nicola also does not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings tonight, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Some applications require 5 affirmative votes to be approved. You'll be told which majority will be required before we begin our deliberations. Mr. Nicola, will you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Chairman Spur?
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Newell?
Here.
Mr. Yuko?
Here.
Mr. Steiner?
Here.
Mr. Mullen?
Here.
Ms. Schwartzstein is excused. Mr. Millay?
Here.
Mr. Loikitz is excused. Ms. Toth?
Here.
Ms. Sager?
Here.
And Dr. Levine.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum. You can proceed.
Excellent. We generally hear the cases in the order that they are listed on the agenda. We try to have each hearing last no more than 30 minutes, but we do understand that some cases are too complex to be heard within that time frame. Each hearing begins with the applicant or their attorney giving an overview of the application and the variances that are required. We then hear from any expert witnesses the applicant may have to help explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board members may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about this case. That opportunity comes at the end of the hearing. Before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed, and we enter into executive session, where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. Most applications are heard and decided in the same evening. If a case requires additional information or testimony that cannot be presented tonight, we will carry your case to another date, and it will not be decided during this meeting. Krista Anderson, the city's zoning officer, has asked that I remind all applicants that they must read carefully the resolution that documents the zoning board's decision and to pay particular attention to the conditions contained in the resolution. For example, if a landscaping plan is required, you must obtain one and submit it to John Linson, the city's forester. If a grading plan is required, you must have one prepared by a civil engineer and submit 3 copies along with the application fee to the city's engineering division. Failure to satisfy all conditions in a resolution will result in a delay in approving your application, as it will cause extra work for city zoning staff. The resolutions documenting the board's decision will normally be available 1 month after we decide the case. When I call your name, please tell me how many witnesses you have and whether you think you can complete your case within 30 minutes. First on the agenda tonight is 260 Kent Place Boulevard, William and Ruth Meager. Do you have an attorney with you or your architect with you? Wonderful. All right, I like that. It's a good promise. All right. Next on the agenda will be 9 Rotary Lane, Alicia and Kevin Brogel. Hello.
We have our architect as well.
Okay.
You'll absolutely be done in 30 minutes.
All right, even better. All right. And next, 14 Linden Place, Rob? DiChiaro, all right, cool.
It's just me, and I will definitely be down in 30 minutes.
This is a good group tonight, all right. And then just to note for the public, we'll hear resolutions, approve minutes, and then the board will break for a brief executive session to discuss our board professionals for 2022. But that's after the sprint we're just about to undergo for these three applications. So we'll hear first 260 Kent Place Boulevard, if you'll just come to the podium first.
You want me to go there?
Yep, if you wouldn't mind. Our court reporter is doing the stenography over the recording, so we'll want you to speak clearly into the microphone.
Okay.
Yep.
Ruth Mayer, MEAGHER, and it's 260 Kent Place Boulevard?
We're going to swear you in
Swear
here.
you in.
Oh.
If you could raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you can tell us just a bit about your case, and then we'll let your architect do the heavy lifting.
Okay, so what we want to do is we want to add on a sunroom. It would be off of our family room, so two walls would be fully, would be glass windows. And then above that would be, we would be bumping out our bedroom roughly around 5 feet, and then we would be making our master bathroom bigger. It's the original size from the 60s. And that's it. That's what we want to do.
Okay.
Do-
That's wonderful. Any questions from the board? We're going to hear from the architect here, the applicant. That's good enough. That's
Thank
a good
you.
start. All right.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Stephen Majewski, Majewski.
Thank you, and I know you were sworn at the last meeting as an expert architect. Are there any changes to your credentials that would impact that for this meeting?
Nope, everything's the same.
All right.
Welcome back, Mr. Majewski. You may
Okay.
proceed.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. and Mrs. Mayor approached me about adding the sunroom that she spoke of. I came out to the site, I saw it, and I viewed the survey, as I always do for zoning compliance. I found a lovely two-story colonial home, typical with the area, and they asked to create a room that they could enjoy the outdoors more. I don't know who's been to the site, but you can see it's a very deep site. It's probably a standard width, but the house that was built in 1965 basically filled the whole width of the lot. Now, in your packet, the first thing I have is the drawings. I have the three drawings that you've seen, same drawings that you have in your packet, a plot plan, proposed, and a present conditions. So these are the same. The first sheet just has a little color on it to illustrate what we're talking about. Okay. The lot is highlighted in yellow, and as you can see on the plot plan, it's a very deep lot. The house is outlined, the driveway is shown, and on it I illustrate a couple of items. I show the proposed one-story addition part in green, and then I also show a part that's the two-story in blue on my page here. The two-story in blue is an extension to the master bedroom suite. So if you refer to the present conditions plan that you have, which is sheet PC1, it's the fourth sheet in the packet, I illustrated the back elevation of the home. I also illustrated the first floor plan, the second floor plan on that sheet. And in designing, I also see one side elevation that faces the neighbor where the addition is. If you look at the floor plan on the first floor, you'll see that the kitchen is in the middle, and also then there's the family room. So we talked about trying to make it so that they could enjoy the site, see more light, bring air to the house, make a useful space. So we entertained various ways to look at it. We looked at it of putting it in the middle at first, across from the kitchen. But the problem is when you put it behind the kitchen, it sort of cuts off all the light from the kitchen, cuts all the air getting to the room so you can enjoy it. And it didn't make any sense to put it in the middle architecturally or design-wise on a floor plan. So then we looked at putting it on the right side of the house behind the family room, which made a lot of sense because it would extend into the yard deeper, where they want to be able to feel the backyard that's so deep, and it's very well wooded and nicely landscaped where the woods aren't. The problem was, we found that, as in the past, it would need a side yard variance because it's only 10.7 feet to the side yard, whereas 15 is required. Now, back when the house was built in 1965, apparently it was on the 1955 zoning ordinance requirements, and I believe in the reports, Krista Anderson emphasized that back in 1955, or 1965, when it was only required to be 7.2 feet to the side yard, but this house was 10.7, so it was well in compliance in 1965. Also had a violation for a combined side yard. When it was built, it was only required to be 25.2, and we actually have about 27 on the existing. So we looked at whether we could massage this first floor addition or second floor and make it work without continuing the side yard variance, the minimum that we have. We found that we would really not be able to accomplish the project that way. The other thing I looked at when I considered whether I felt that this was a good solution was the other zoning aspects. And I looked at all the other main bulk items that control the proposal. And we found that building coverage is only about 44% of the allowed. It's less than half of what's the allowed. It only comes to 7.9%, whereas 18% is allowed. I also found that total lot coverage is only about 47% after the proposal, and we're only going to be about 16.5% versus 35%. And especially with floor area ratio, which is a very an aspect of the zoning that controls bulk significantly, allowed 25%, we're only at 9.7. So I felt with asking for continuation without making the side yard violation any more severe to the side, and there's plenty of space to plant there and screen, I felt that was a reasonable request. And with the percentage of combined side yard, when the addition goes to the back, it actually is far from the left side of the house to the actual addition itself. It doesn't get anywhere near the driveway side. On the second floor, which is illustrated in our proposed plans, page A2, we can review the plan briefly of what we're proposing. Let's flip these. Sorry. Look at what the proposal is. Here's our addition on the first floor, which extends back, and we would still be able to relate to the nice patio area and landscaped area they have. And on the second floor, we see we've only added about 5 feet to the rear so we could gain proper closets for the bedroom. And the tiny master bath wasn't made massive, but it can fit a tub now, and we reorganize it so it works better. So we improved closets for the master. The bedroom itself is the same size that it was. We just were able to add closets and improve on the bathroom. So we felt that this would be a reasonable proposal to put forth that would have really no negative impacts on any neighbors. Actually, the neighbor where the one-story addition is, that's the driveway side of their house. It's the inactive side of the house, basically. They're in the center of their house. On the other side, it's pretty far from this lot line, and there's a lot of vegetation on the western side able to plant. So we try to keep the addition in keeping with the architecture of the house. We felt that it accomplished what we needed to do to improve this house, not only for the mayor's, but also for any future homeowner. And we felt that that was a good application to ask for relief from the board.
All right, we'll let Mr. Dower, if you have any questions you'd like to pull out of the engineer's report.
The only comments we had, or the major comment, was about stormwater, and we did have discussions with the applicant's engineer, and they're going to be submitting plans along with the grading permit to control all the stormwater.
So
you're in agreement with that?
Yeah. Does that constitute a stormwater management plan, or that's just a...
It's just going to be revised plan showing a required seepage pit to accommodate that square footage.
Okay. Does that need to be called out as a condition, or just noted as part of the testimony, Andy?
I would recommend a condition.
Okay, so we're just going to condition the application on the inclusion of those, the agreed upon revisions, revision to the plan.
There was something that Krista Anderson brought up about rear lighting in her comments, and we would address the spotlights or anything so it conforms to ordinance.
Okay.
There was also a mention about air conditioning and generators.
Yeah.
On the site plan, I illustrate that. There's actually an existing generator permitted, went through permits and installed. It was actually behind the face of the house, but screened in the front, so there is an on-site generator. The air conditioning unit is on the western side, tucked between two chimneys, and it complies well with the minimum 5-foot setback from the property line.
Okay.
It's, probably with the AC unit in itself is probably about 4 feet from the house, and that leaves 6.6 feet, and it's required to be 5. So if they put any more, they would also comply. It may require an additional unit.
Okay. You're not, are you planning to add an additional unit or no?
There will probably be an additional unit
There will.
on the western side near the other one.
And it would conform with the existing zoning?
Yes, with screening and setback,
and what have
it
you.
should have no trouble complying with the
Okay.
ordinance.
Just, Chris, do you need that exhibit marked? I saw it colorized and,
Correct. We should mark that as A1.
okay. I know you need more stuff at your desk probably, so that'll go well. Okay. Was it, sorry, Mr. Dow, was there anything else that you wanted to call attention to? Noted the
that was-
stormwater.
That was, there was a question regarding they were proposing to remove any trees?
I'm sorry.
Proposing to remove any trees?
No.
Okay.
No.
That was the only other question.
No, I had a discussion with the engineer that the dry well be accommodated on site and not interfere with any major trees. And I think Mr. Linsom in his report didn't have any.
He noted that the
problems.
screening was adequate, which is oftentimes what we look at, and then he didn't note any impact on trees, so, yep, we'll note that in the testimony, of course, as well, when the stormwater management system is designed and approved, that it
Yes.
doesn't impact any of the existing trees on the
Yes,
property.
the final grading plan will come in with the permit if we're approved.
Wonderful. Questions from the board, then? Claire?
Well, the only question I have, it doesn't go towards the variance itself, but it looks like you're left with a family room with one window in it. And I'm just curious if it's going to be light enough in there.
Well, architecturally, we probably could add a window on that wall. There's no reason we couldn't add windows. We just hadn't spoken about that to bring
Okay.
light to the interior room. When that interior room was expanded in 2005, I believe, it was pretty small. That's why it was expanded many years ago, about 5 feet at that time.
Any other questions from members of the board? Okay, quiet group. Anything else you'd like to say, Mr. Majewski?
I think we basically met the criteria with no negatives implied by this. I think there's some aspects in the Historic Preservation Committee's report that they felt favorable towards it, as well as the Environmental Commission report, that they were in favor of what we proposed due to the size and shape. And it's only one story, the majority of what we proposed. And there was really no other place to accommodate adding to the house, which is well in compliance with all the other aspects, except for the side yard.
How's that, Andy? Is that pretty good? All right. And I'll pause here. If there are any members of the interested public in attendance for the application, 260 Kent Place Boulevard. Seeing none, we would offer typically the public the opportunity to ask questions of the expert witnesses as well as their opinion on the case, but I'll note for the record that they're at home watching TV or something. They're not here with us this evening.
Okay.
Okay. Would you like to say anything in conclusion? Ms. Mealy? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Well, just what she was saying about light, I think
Would you mind just come up, just start to
there will be a large window, but I'm assuming we'll get light in from the sunroom, right? I mean,
Talk about whether we'd like to consider windows there to be short. So it's only an architectural
Right,
provision,
right,
and we're not requiring any variances.
Right.
So we're not having any fire implications and everything else. And no variances will be
Right.
created by any windows if we decide to.
right, right.
When
Okay.
we do the furniture arrangement, final, and all that for the room, we may consider something like that, but we haven't gotten that far.
That's between you two, yep,
Right,
absolutely.
okay, sorry.
No.
Awesome, well, thank you very much. Andy, could we review conditions?
Absolutely. So 2 conditions. One is our usual compliance with all the conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum, and the second was, as discussed, that revised plans showing the required seepage pit shall be submitted to the city engineer for review and approval.
And we noted in testimony about the change in the exterior lights. I don't believe that needs to be called out as a condition.
I don't believe so either.
Okay. All right, with that, who would like to begin deliberations? Don't make Tom share his studious notes there, I can see. Old habits die hard. Anyone like to spare Tom? All right, Tom, sorry.
All right.
You gonna start us out?
Sure, absolutely. So I cut to the chase, I like the application, and I'm definitely inclined to approve it. It's kind of it's one of these long, narrow lots we see in certain areas of town, and that just creates difficulty in almost doing anything to the house. Of the variances, one is, that side yard variance. You're not really making it worse, you're just making it longer. If I'm making clear, I'm saying you're not getting any closer to the neighbor. And as was noted by the architect, that's the inactive side of the neighbor's house anyway. So there's no threat of imposing, negative impacts on the neighbor. The forester noted that the screening is adequate, so that also helps with any concerns about the impacting on the neighborhood. And it's at the rear of the house, so it's not terribly noticeable in general from the neighborhood. So based on all of that, the commitment to do the stormwater management, which was one of the questions, I think it's always very important to us. Happy to hear you're going to address the lights. That's, a concern of having light pollution, unnecessary light pollution. Based on all that, I'm inclined to support the application.
Oh, go ahead, Claire.
Okay, well, I can only add that the house, when built, was compliant with the 1955 zoning law, and the law changed, the house didn't. It left the homeowners with very little, by way of options for an expansion. And so within essentially the envelope they have, I think they've come up with a thoughtful approach to make the house more livable. And I too will support the application.
Great. Any further comments? Tom did such a good job. Well done, Tom. No, and I would call it as well, if you had an opportunity to review the 2005 zoning board resolution, a number of the similar observations were noted by that due board, and appreciate the efforts that have been taken by the applicant and the architect to minimize the impact on the neighbors, on the property, and still accomplish something that hopefully make the home more livable for you. So for all the reasons that Tom and Claire, and I'm sure others have thought about, I too could support the application. Do we have a motion to approve with the conditions as noted?
I'll move to approve.
Okay, Tom,
I'll second.
second, Diana. Chris, you give us a roll.
Sure. Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. All right, thank you very much. Good luck with the project. All right, next up, 9 Rotary Lane.
Hey, Steve, just leave the exhibits.
All right.
Good.
And this isn't a race, by the way, so you take as much time as you need.
Alicia Broll, 9 Rotary Lane.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks. And can you just spell your last name for the record?
Brougghel,
Excellent. Could you just tell us a little bit about the application,
Sure.
and then we'll pass it over to your architect.
the expert.
Yep.
We're here to seek a variance to extend our back deck by the kitchen and to add a roof over it.
Okay.
And that's about it.
Okay.
Anything more specific? I think the total proposed porch exceeds the building coverage statistic by 50 square feet.
Okay, excellent. Any questions for the applicant before we move to the architect? No? Okay, you may sit. Thank you. All right.
All right. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name and spell your last name.
Kimberly Tone, T-O-N-E.
Thank you. And can you briefly describe your background, experience, and 3 boards you've appeared before recently?
This one. I'm an architect licensed in the state of New Jersey. I've appeared many times before this board. Other boards I've appeared before are Madison and Short Hills.
Okay.
All right.
We'll accept your credentials.
Okay.
Thank you.
So as Alicia mentioned, we are seeking variance for building coverage and rear yard setback. The existing lot tapers. This is sheet one of the drawings that were submitted. So the rotary lane here, that lot line tapers. It's sort of a trapezoidal shaped lot. And the rear yard setback that we're seeking is because the position of the house is pushed a little bit back towards the backyard. And the angle of the rear yard setback cuts off this small porch and stair that we're at. The house was renovated by Alicia and Kevin in 2016. And they had done some extensive work through the family room and some other areas through the house. They hired me to the current project, which is currently permitted, which is to add an office and to move the deck over towards the back here, and to do some miscellaneous, an addition above the deck for some more closet space, and that's already been permitted and is mostly constructed at this point. When we got through, the kitchen is located right here, and to get to the deck, you have to go through the family room and a hallway to get to the back deck here. So really, we added this and wanted to enlarge this. It's the main access to the house. The house is has a walkout basement, and as you pull into the driveway here, they're going to use this stair most of the time. So we wanted a little bit of a bigger area for a grill. We were originally going to put the grill over here, but as we decided to come to variance to get this deck increased a little bit. So the deck has a small roof cover towards the back of the house, and the stairs pushed out a little bit. We're going to put the grill out beyond the roof so that it's not a safety issue. And the extent of the variance for the step up to the stairs is a 9.6-foot variance. And like Lucy said, we're adding about 78 square feet, but 50 square feet of it are over the allowable building. There's one other thing that we need to talk about, which is that during construction, some things changed, and Verbals are trying to get pricing on covering this roof deck, this current deck that's over, not actually current, it's currently permitted. It's going to be built. So they're in the process of getting pricing to put a roof over that deck. I talked to Chris Anderson. It doesn't need any variances. It doesn't change the existing building coverage or lot coverage or setbacks. So the extent of the variances that we're seeking for this portion of the porch are the same as what they are. And that's it in a nutshell. I'm not trying to raise, but...
Well, I think this is definitionally de minimis, but we'll go run it through its courses. Mr. Dower? Tell us what these 45 square feet will do to something.
It's actually even less than that, with the impervious coverage is only 7 square feet. So it's extremely, I think it's probably the least minimus application we've had. The only... Most minimus. I figured I'd try a word there, but the only other comment I had was about trees, but there doesn't seem to be anything that's going to impact any trees. So that was the only comment I had. So there's really not too much here.
Okay. Questions from members of the board?
I just have one question, another simple application, and I'm sure Mr. Hollows is going to see Chris Anderson's report, but there's an error in the address on his plans.
I saw that.
So
It's
I
Rotary Drive,
assume,
not Rotary Lane.
yeah, I assume he'll see this, but just you might just remind him in case he hasn't.
I will let him know.
Okay.
Other than that, very simple application, I think.
Any questions from members of the board? Okay. I assume we'll condition this on the engineer's letter?
That's the only condition I have, the compliance on those conditions noted in the board engineer's memorandum.
Okay.
Okay. Barring any further questions from the board and Mr. Dower, I will just offer the interested public the opportunity to ask any questions or provide any comments. And note for the record that there are no members of the interested public for this particular application. Was there anything you'd like to say, or the applicant in conclusion?
No.
No? All right. Even better. All right. The only condition of record then, as we enter executive deliberations, is the engineer's letter. Who would like to begin?
just a straightforward application. I mean, I support it fully.
Okay. Anyone care to add anything further?
Yeah, I mean, again, it's another addition in the rear of the property. It's not going to have any significant negative impacts on any of the neighboring properties. You know, the forester's okay with screening, stormwater management, you know, non-issue, so I can support it as well.
I would add the trapezoidal shape of the lot does impose a bit of a hardship to extend out the deck, so I think it's de minimis and eminently supportable.
All right. Most de minimis.
It is very de minimis.
Very
Highly de minimis.
highly de minimis. All right. I too can support this most de minimis case, and with that would entertain a motion to approve with the condition as noted. Have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All right. Liz gets the second, David gets the first. Is this a roll call, then?
Yep, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yeah.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. All right. Good luck with the project. Thank you. All right. Last but not least, Mr. Rob, 14 Linden Place here. You'll join us at the front? We'll let the crowd settle down.
I was gonna say. Thank you for putting me last so I can at least watch. how this goes
Yeah, see
down.
how it's done. No
Appreciate that.
pressure, okay? So we're going to swear you in, and then you can tell us a bit about the
Raise your
application.
right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name, spell your last name.
Rob DiChiaro, D-E-C-H-I-A-R-O.
Thank you. And before we start, I do just have one brief question for you on the application.
Yes.
Final page, signature page. If you could just take a look and confirm, is that indeed your signature or electronic signature at the bottom there?
It is.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, I am seeking a variance for side yard setback, front yard setback, and lot coverage. Much like the previous two, pretty small in terms of the actual footage. We are looking to add back on a side porch that was removed during our renovation in 2019 and 2020. That side porch had rot and structural deficiencies that we found during the home inspection prior to our closing. And to be totally honest, we decided not to go through with getting a variance during that renovation because we found out 2 weeks before closing that my wife was pregnant and needed to get in the house. So this is really just us coming in to finish the work done to the house. We feel that it will help the functionality of the house. As you could probably see on the front and side elevation on the plans, we left a set of French doors to kind of have that walkout that we would eventually use, and right now those are kind of just floating. So we're looking to put that back, and as Krista noted in the in her review, in the community services review, we are literally keeping the footprint and the elevation to the exact specs that were existing prior that we had removed. So that is the summary of it.
Okay.
And unfortunately, I am your expert, so.
I'll pause, I'll take a deep breath.
Yes.
Mr. Dowers, anything you'd like to call out for this particular application?
It's pretty much the same thing. It's 175 square feet of increase in impervious coverage, which is considered de minimis. The HVAC equipment seems to be screened, and the only question was about removing any trees, which I assume is not going to happen because it's existing footprint.
Not happening.
So there's really no comments this time.
Okay. We would condition the application on the approval, acceptance of the engineer's letter and the stipulations included there.
Absolutely.
Any members of the board care to, maybe a historic preservation question?
Oh, yeah, I was going to say,
Little
any
bit.
chance you'd restore the front entranceway to the original? That was so pretty.
Honestly, we were going to do that. The wife and the family, she wants the portico,
Okay.
just to cover some of the Amazon packages that she
Okay.
continues to have sent.
Yeah, I
so
get that you don't want to stand in the rain. Okay.
But yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Claire. Anyone else have another question?
What?
No more questions? Any other questions? Tom, anything catch your eye after this is objectionable or?
Not really. I will say that in general, the historic preservation complimented the design.
Yes.
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 We don't get that a lot. So compliments to your architect.
Thank you very much. And it's funny, my father-in-law is a home builder down in Maryland, hence the architect. And it drives him nuts every time he comes up. He says you need to have that balance over there. So he is a big contributor of this.
Andy, is there any other element to this application that we should draw attention to for the sake of the record?
No, we've noted the improved functionality, which is the main basis for the application. I haven't seen any major detriments that we need to talk about. We've already noted its de minimis increase. I don't see any need for any further testimony on any particular points.
Okay. With that, we will note the absence of the interested public here this evening. Don't let that harm your ego or anything, but it's a compliment to your project, I suppose.
Thank you.
We would offer them otherwise the opportunity to ask a question or provide their commentary. And with nothing further from the public, Mr. Dower, or the board, is there anything you'd like to say in conclusion? Anything?
No.
No? Okay. Fair enough. The most de minimis application here, testimony. All right. So we'll note the one condition, which is acceptance of the engineer's letter. Who would like to begin deliberations?
Well, I'll start. I mean, I'll just note at the beginning that, you know, when I first looked at the zoning office report, I counted the number of variances, and there are 4 variances, which sounds like a lot, but it really, in this case, it really isn't. As has been noted, and it's a recurring theme tonight, the variances aren't significant. And there's nothing that suggests a negative impact on anybody, any neighbors. The forester notes again that the screening is adequate, so no need for screening. And yeah, nothing really else worth mentioning, so I'm definitely inclined to support it. I think it's a very nice house, very nice addition or project you have, so I'm inclined to support it as well.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Well, and I'd only note that had this been part of the original project, the rebuild, I mean, we've certainly seen instances where you have the right to rebuild an existing non-conforming structure. And the delay is understandable, given this expansion of your family, so I don't think that should be held against you here. That's also de minimis.
And I would agree, it's a beautiful addition, and, you know, I've been to that house a bunch of times with the previous owner, so lots of kids, so you have plenty of space, so I would definitely approve.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right. With that, I too could approve the application, drawing special note to Claire's commentary about the peculiar nature of the development, but all for good reason. So we're thankful for that.
Thank you.
With that, do we have a motion to approve with the condition as noted?
Motion to approve.
Okay, Liz, second from Diana. Chris, give us a roll.
Yep, Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Yuko,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner, Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
Mr. Malay,
Yes.
Ms. Toth,
Yes.
and Chairman Spur.
Yes. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
All right. Now we will move to resolutions, minutes, and then we will break for an executive session.
All right, first resolution is 8 Edgar Street, application ZB 21-2071. Eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Mullen, and Ms. Toth. Would somebody like to move that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner, Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and Ms. Toth.
Yes.
All right, next is 27 Ridgedale Avenue, application ZB 21-2073. Our eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Mullen, and Ms. Sager. Need a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Mullen,
Yes.
and Ms. Sager.
Yes.
And, I'm sorry, I crossed out Ms. Toth on that one. You're eligible too.
Yes. I wondered.
Sorry.
Seemed like.
And our last one is 30 Wildwood Lane, application ZB 21-2077. Eligible voting members are Chairman Spur, Vice Chairwoman Newell, Mr. Steiner, Mr. Mullen, and Ms. Toth. Need a motion to approve that as well.
Moved.
Second.
All right, Chairman Spur,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman Newell,
Yes.
Mr. Steiner,
Yes.
Mr. Mullin,
Yes.
and Ms. Toth.
Yes.
And set of minutes from October 4th, 2021 to approve. Need a motion for that? Come on.
Nobody likes
Oh, Joe.
Is that a motion? Yeah, that's a
And a second? Come on.
Second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Thank you. And then procedurally regarding the executive session, we need to keep brief minutes, if I'm correct. Go ahead.
TV has to go on.
Well, TV has to go off, and then I was just going to ask, we need to go in executive session and then come back out to adjourn the meeting?
So I was talking to Andy about this, and
End result is you can make a motion to close the public portion of the meeting, go to executive session. There will be no further business after that executive session is concluded.
Good answer. So with that, we need a motion to adjourn, to move into executive session where no further business beyond what is stated on the agenda will be conducted. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Yep, Liz?
and all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none.
Great. All right, Andy, get out of here.
Will do.
And Kristen.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye, gentlemen.
Good night.